I haven't heard any of the move abroad expats or content creators talk about this topic, but it's going to be very instrumental for you to know and navigate when you move to your new country. Let me explain. After living in Brazil for 5 years and learning a new language, adapting to a new culture, and learning all that I can learn as fast as I could, I've discovered through my networking and interacting with other people that there's a friendship hierarchy that exists, and it's definitely something that you should take into account while you're making friends as a new expat. Now, I'm going to explain this hierarchy going from the bottom to the top, detailing what you should expect from each category of friends. Now, side note, I'm not saying that you shouldn't make friends from any particular category. All I'm saying is that there is going to be some obvious benefits and value that you're going to get from certain people versus others. Now, at the very bottom of this friendship hierarchy for expats are going to be other new expats like yourself, because they're trying to figure out the ropes just like you are. They might be a little bit further along in your journey, but they're still relatively new. And I consider new anyone that's been there from 0 to 6 months. They're still trying to figure out where to live, how to find all the best apartments, how to get all of your comfort things from home, how to figure out your taxes, how to learn a new language, the geopolitics of the nation, dating, the bureaucratic pitfalls and hassles and scams that you can avoid, and so many other things that might be in your blind spots that you don't even know. Now, a tad bit above the new expats are the veteran expats. And for me, I consider anyone a veteran if they've been in that country for more than 3 years and they're fluent in the language spoken in that country. Now, I've found in my experiences that these people are very willing to help new expats, and they're very willing to give you answers to anything that you might have questions about, even things that you don't even know that are mistakes that you can make. I heard a quote somewhere saying that having a mentor or having someone to guide you along the process is like paying half off for their mistakes. And that really stuck with me because I felt that way when I encountered people that I met here in Brazil that have been here for years and were able to guide me through documentation, paperwork, finding apartments, and other things I had questions about, and even things that I didn't have questions about. They were willing to help me so that I knew to avoid them preemptively. Now, the next one is pretty obvious and it goes without saying, but I have to mention this, is local people. Because why would you want to move to a country and you're not making local friends? It doesn't make any sense. But you'll be surprised if you go to cities like Bangkok, Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Dubai, you'll see a lot of people who only have expat friends and they've closed themselves in this sort of expat bubble, and they're not really open to making local friends, which I find is weird. Also, locals are going to have the most context about living in that country because they're from that country. So even if you meet an expat who's been there for 10, 15 plus years, it's gonna pale in comparison in the knowledge that a local knows. But just make sure that you're striving to learn their local language as well, and that they're at least basic or intermediate in English so that there's no cumbersome communication and the communication is more seamless so that they can actually communicate what you should know to you. Now, the top level of this hierarchy are locals that have spent time in your country. Now, for me, being from the United States, that's going to be any Brazilian that has spent some sort of time in the United States, be it visiting or living there or doing study abroad. And typically a year or two or more is best because that gives them time to understand the context of that country. So these people are going to act as cultural translators with context. They understand both cultures, or at least some of your culture and theirs, and they're able to decode a lot of the unspoken norms and etiquette as well as social nuances in a way that other locals can't. And they'll understand you and where you're coming from, and not just linguistically, but mentally. And they can explain why and how and a lot of the confusing local customs that you're not yet adjusted to with empathy and clarity. Also, they can fast track your integration like tenfold because they already sort of get where you're coming from, and intuitively they'll guide you towards experiences, neighborhoods, or social circles that fit your vibe, and they'll allow you to sort of understand and ease some of the culture shock that you might be experiencing and help you soften the landing in your transition into living in a new country. What you'll also come to find is that there's going to be a mutual curiosity that exists between the two of you. Because they've lived in your country, they're going to always be genuinely curious about your perspective on things. And they're going to want to have these thoughtful conversations about geopolitics, love, relationships, money, values, culture, and an array of other different topics that come to mind that you guys both may have some general interest in. Also, since there is a baseline level of context that you guys both have from living in each other's countries, there's less awkwardness when you talk about certain topics because there's a little bit of an understanding that exists between you, but still that curiosity that allows you to safely ask each other questions and learn more. One last thing to note about this type of person is that they'll offer you insider access, but with an outsider's sensitivity and understanding. So let me explain. So they'll introduce you to local places, events, and people, but with that sort of outsider perspective and lens that I was talking about. And they'll also tell you where to go, what to avoid, and how to behave in little subtle ways that help you and protect you from making cultural missteps and being taken advantage of or scammed. Now, the last thing I'm going to leave you with is that you should have a diverse group of friends that includes all of the aforementioned people in this video. Because when you move to a new country, the truth is that you're going to have a cloud of questions and uncertainty just surrounding you that you're not going to be able to assuage immediately. So you should have the right community around you that's going to help you ease this transition. And it's just going to make your experience in that country all the more better. So if you like videos like this that just sort of explain expat life and living abroad and digital nomad tips and online money making tips, consider subscribing for more. All right, that's it.